Well, now to central New South Wales, Dubbo to be exact, for a taste of the pioneering spirit. A 5-hour drive west of Sydney brings us to Dubbo, the commercial hub for 1/3 of the state. A century and a half ago, Dubbo came to life as a town as European settlers moved in force. These days, Dubbo is home to 40,000 people, with many of them still worshipping in churches erected in those early pioneering times. In the early to mid-1800s, so much of Australia was settled by squatters, those hardy pioneers who travelled west and north from the coast to settle illegally on Crown land. They were eventually sold the rights to live on that land legally. One such squatter's hut is this slab homestead, Dundullimal. This is the most sophisticated slab building still standing in Australia. It's now a National Trust property, built in a Palladian style with 2 wings in the early 1840s and managed by Anne Brandon.
26,000 acres in total. John Morn ran sheep and a few cattle, and he owned the property from around about 1842 through to 1859. The verandas are definitely positioned low to keep out the sun, essentially, and as you can see now, that sort of allows the winter sun to come in but keeps the heat of the summer sun out.
Inside, Dundullimal's rich pioneering history comes alive with original furnishings from the home, including this cast-iron double bed complete with hand-painted bedposts. The musically inclined master of the time would have lived in the central part of the house, with his servants in one wing, his overseer in the other. Interestingly, John and Afra Morn stayed in this timber home for some 20 years in the 1840s and 50s, but built an elaborate sandstone structure for the horses.
The stables were built in 1848 and they're sandstone, local quarried, and they certainly do reflect the wealth of and the value placed upon horses in those days. And that sometimes we think that perhaps people wondered why the master lived in the little slab hut and why the horses had the sandstone building, but we don't know the answer to that question.
The golden treasures of Dubbo's pioneering past are displayed in this museum, a collection of musical instruments, clothing and farm equipment. Early transport is a major theme. Elaborate buggies and this gigantic wool wagon.
So this particular wagon, it's known as an Australian hero wagon because of the sheer scale. It's effectively the early day removalist truck. So from the Dubbo era anyway, they were carting wool and wheat down to Sydney, and from Bathurst over the mountains to Sydney alone, it would be a 6-month voyage. But it's incredible that the wagon of this scale, it's 11 tonnes, would have needed about 13 horses or bullocks to actually cart it.
For more than a century, until 40 years ago, this was Dubbo's jail. It was a gloomy prison, located right in the heart of Dubbo's main street. So imagine the consternation of locals when prisoner after prisoner tried to escape over its walls. The phenomena of jail escapes is relived every day with a rowdy reenactment. From Dubbo's colourful historic past to an exciting new image for the city. These days, the big attraction in Dubbo is the Taronga Western Plains Zoo, with plenty of exotic wildlife. Life on the savannah, the sounds and smells of wildest Africa. How would it be to wake up to this scene right outside your very own tent? That experience, Zufari, is being offered out here. There are the big cats, lions on the prowl from Africa, and endangered Sumatran tigers. To keep them stimulated, active and alert, they're given enrichment feeding, chunks of raw meat hidden in barrels that they have to work hard to reach. The otters certainly love their enrichment feeding. These are oriental small clawed otters. Their food hidden in magazines by keeper Christy Garrard.
We feed them 6 times a day, so we're always trying to come up with different ways to feed them. They have a high and fast metabolism, so they need lots of small frequent feeds, and also spending some time in the water. They need their lots of energy to keep them warm as well. We always try to come up with a new way to keep them active and have a bit of fun with them as well.
The rhinos are very active. These are all females and they duel with one another with their horns. Ogden Nash once wrote, "Farewell, farewell, you old rhinoceros. I'll stare at something less preposterous." Frankly, I found myself staring at this newborn baby, 6 weeks old and yet to be named. Finally, there are the giraffes. With tongues measuring 40 centimetres, they have no difficulty grasping the carrots being fed by keeper Hayley Joseph.
They don't like being handled much, not even by us keepers. Some of them, as you can see, are a bit smoochier than others, but most of the time, you know, if they want to come close, they will. They're a bit cheeky. Carrots to giraffe are like chocolate to us humans, I guess. They do get them every day. However, they seem to be one of their favourite, if not their favourite food. So, you know, they get used to us, and we build that relationship with these animals that not anybody else in the world has the opportunity to do. So they're very special. They mean the world to us. Thank you.
When next we travel Oz, Kakadu, digging deep for bush tucker with a difference. The Grand Pacific Drive, high adventure with the 2 Tims. And the Tasmanian jewel of Freycinet, the juiciest of giant oysters. And Rustus, the dolphin dog. And that is this episode of Travel Oz. I'm Grainger. Happy travels.